Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Business and Life Insights. And today I'm so pleased to introduce you to Lona Fink, our distinguished and very beautiful guest today, to give us her story. And there's lots to tell, I have to tell you. So this podcast is where we delve into the minds of industry leaders and innovators. And Lona is one of them. So I'm pleased to bring her to you today. Lona, good afternoon, good evening.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be here today now.
Yes. And we're thrilled to have you too. So you're a communications and TEDx coach, and so many of my viewers and listeners out there are really still grappling with the idea of how to speak effectively. Leading a company or leading a department, moving people in a public speaking setting, being a keynote speaker, those are all, I think, on a lot of our leaders' bucket lists of things to do and be and to accomplish and master. And I really appreciate you being with us today because you have information that so many of our viewers would like to know more about.
Yes, I will tell you, I'll get into my journey in just a minute. It was not always easy, but once you know a few tips and tricks, all of a sudden the world can open for you.
Yes, well said. So Lana has dedicated her career to helping individuals step into that spotlight and share their unique messages with the world. And so let's just dive into it, Lana. Tell us about you.
About me, where to start?
Yeah.
I was in corporate America for about 27 years. And 3 years ago, I froze on Zoom. delivering a leadership presentation to an employee resource group. And it was coming up to my portion, and I still remember the day. My heart was beating fast. I could barely get the words out. I literally saw sweat dripping down my face. And I said to myself at that point that I would never be in public speaking again or in leadership if I could just get through my portion. I did get through it. Obviously, I'm here today. And when it was done, I immediately apologized to the host. And she said to me, "What are you talking about? You were great." What I didn't realize at the time is we're always our worst critic, no matter what it is. And I did step back for about a year from leadership and from public speaking. And then that same employee resource group gave out 61 Toastmasters members the following year, Toastmasters memberships. And I remember thinking to myself, oh my gosh, it's my chance to overcome this fear of public speaking. I signed up immediately. June 1st of 2022, I got the email, "Welcome to Toastmasters. We're excited to have you." And immediately I felt like a fraud. What was I doing trying to get with this elite group of public speakers? On top of that, the Toastmasters Club that we were just organizing at our corporate office wasn't as organized as it could have been. And when we were assigned a club mentor, the person who was running the club did step down. So I'm sure you can all guess where this is going. Yes, I stepped into the president role of a brand new Toastmasters Club I know nothing about. I'm leading 7 executive board members or 6 other executive board members. We're having weekly meetings, and it was an absolute amazing experience. Now, just 2 years later, I will tell you I am a division director. And today I oversee over 21 clubs and 300 members in District 47. It is an absolute amazing experience. If there's one thing I want everyone to hear today, is that Toastmasters is for everyone, or anyone that wants to improve that fear of public speaking.
Wonderfully said. So that's an awesome story. I mean, you just took the helm of a new Toastmasters group, really, and built it from the ground up, building membership or Toastmasters along the way, and helping them hone their speaking skills as a team, but also as a wider community. So yes, Toastmasters is wow. So that was where you realized that this was in you.
That was where, yeah, that's where it all began, right? Toastmasters. And I was able to witness people coming in who couldn't even stand up in front of a group. All of a sudden, they're giving 4 to 6 minute speeches and they're excited about it. I'm like, oh, this is amazing, the transformation that this can happen. I will tell you there's another piece that helped my progress along the way. And Toastmasters is still a partner of an AI speech application called Udly. And the speech communication tool allowed me to record speeches, upload speeches, practice interviewing whenever I wanted to. I didn't have to wait for a Toastmasters meeting. And so if you can imagine, I began using this all the time. As soon as I had access to AI, and it could tell me these were my filler words, this is how fast I was talking, here's a summary, maybe here are some questions your audience might have. Wow. All of this for every single speech I was giving. And because I was getting so good at giving the speeches and also training on this product, I was asked to then train at 3 different Toastmasters Leadership Institutes that summer, the summer after I joined. And I remember going to the first one that I ever went to, I think it was in February or March, and thinking to myself, wow, it would be amazing someday to be up there presenting to others. And then a year later, here I am sharing this amazing information with 30-year Toastmasters veterans. And yeah, it was absolutely amazing. I'll tell you, at the 3rd one that I gave, It was when that 4-time distinguished Toastmaster walked up to me and asked me to be part of her TedX coaching team.
Whoa.
And I'll tell you, when a 4-time distinguished Toastmaster asks you to do anything, of course you're going to say yes. And if you're watching this, you're going to know it was definitely you. She's amazing. And of course I said yes, right? Because that's what you're going to do. You're going to say absolutely yes to whatever opportunity you have. As soon as she walked out of the room, now, oh my God, I turned around and I said, what am I doing? Right? Like, I don't know anything about TEDx. And then I said, wait a second. If she didn't think you could do it or that you'd do a good job, she wouldn't have asked you to be on her team. So there's something that people see in you that you don't see. And last month for TEDx Miramar, I coached 2 of their TEDx speakers. And it was an amazing experience watching them tell their story, give their message. And I really can't wait to see their videos come out.
All right, wonderful. So let's go back a little bit. So you were practicing in between your speaking engagements, and you're using a tool that helped you analyze your delivery, and then you were able to hone and fine tune your delivery using an AI-enabled tool. So how is that different than you were speaking between that and speaking in front of a live audience?
The one thing that it allows you to do is it allows you to practice in a non-judgmental format, right? Because it's a computer. And so it's giving you the analytics. Now, when you go to speak in front of a keynote, you are going to want to slow down a little bit so that the audience is with you. You're also going to want to make sure that you're not giving them too much information to absorb. And of course, if you have any type of PowerPoint slides, you don't want them to be too many words on the slides. It's almost better to have a picture and then paint the picture with your words to match. Then they're going to listen to you versus try to read ahead. I've seen so many speakers, unfortunately, have so much information to share and they just want to share everything, and I get it. It's going to be much more effective, though, at the end if you have a QR code for them to scan, so that then you can actually get the analytics of who's scanning that QR code and wants to learn that additional information. And you're really able to then make that connection with the audience. I'll tell you, the first time I stood up to give that Toastmasters Leadership Institute it was the first time I'd ever stood up to do a training in my life. Here I am, 27 years in corporate America, and I was never a trainer. I just knew what I was working on at work. It's when you can stand up there, look the audience in the eye, and talk to them about what you know.
Yes.
It is so powerful because you know your speech, you know your topic. And one of the things that I see everyone struggle with is, oh my gosh, I forgot to add this. I forgot to say this during my speech, or, why they'll stumble and then they'll try to go back to something. I'm going to give them a trick. If you ever forget something, when you're in your Q&A session, it's a perfect time for you to say, you know what, I just thought of something else, and give it there. No one knows it was going to be part of your speech. No one knows it was the 4th thing you were going to talk about. Why not present yourself in a way that you are that expert on that topic? And this is why they should listen to you and work with you and understand what it is you're trying to present to them, versus someone maybe fumbling to get the right word on stage.
Right. Absolutely. So can you give us a framework, kind of a thumbnail sketch of what a framework of a great speech would be like?
Okay. I'm going to start with a question. And I think I already asked you this question, but for the audience out there who's listening and watching, how many seconds do you think you have to grab the audience's attention when you stand on stage? Nell, I think I already told you this. It's 7 seconds.
Yes.
And at 10 seconds, they're going to decide if they're going to pick up their cell phone or not, and if they're going to give you all of the attention. while it's great to come out there and say, this is me, this is who I am, my credentials, you can put that on sometimes something that's playing before you even step on the stage. You don't have to repeat it, right?
Right.
Probably the worst thing you could do, because they've already seen it. So don't repeat your bio. It's already hopefully been given, or at least it's in the flyer that they're sitting down listening to you. The first thing you're going to want to do is look out at the audience and ask them a question. By a show of hands, how many of you have ever judged a person based off of how they looked or what they spoke like, right? And make sure it's maybe something that you would raise your hand for, right? Because I know this is something that the TEDx speaker that I just worked with, that was her first question. That was her opening question. And then she said, you know what? Don't worry. It's a safe space. No one's going to judge you. All of a sudden now the audience is with you. Okay, what are you going to talk about? Then it's great if you can bring stories into why your speech is so impactful. Obviously, we're going to start with an opening like I did 3 years ago. This is what happened to me. And then when you go through your hero's journey, you're able to showcase where the change happened, how it happened, why it was so impactful, and what is happening today. And when you're able to grab the audience and hold them through that whole thing, that's where the magic happens. Mm-hmm. Because at the end of it, if you can have a call to action, now whether that call to action could be like the speech that was just given, the next time you see someone, instead of deciding who they are based off of how they look or what they sound like, why don't you walk up to them? Because you might just be surprised at that experience. And I mean, it was like, no, it was a mic drop. And I was sitting there. I mean, it was amazing what happened. And when you're able to give a call to action, they're going to obviously want to continue to work with you or listen to you.
Right. It's very compelling, very compelling. And I'm noticing as you're speaking, you're using the pause very powerfully. Can you tell us about the use of the pause?
Yes, it's something that I'm trying to do much more deliberately today than I normally do. I tend to speak so fast. You wouldn't think so, being that I was born in the Midwest, but I did live for 5 years in New Jersey. So I think that's where I got that East Coast, we're going to speak really fast type of thing. I now live in South Florida, right? We've been down here since 1998, my husband and I. And the reason the pause is so important is because it gives the audience a chance to catch up with you. It also gives the audience a chance to think or even to respond. A trick that our past district director gave us was, if you're ever quite not sure, or she didn't even tell us what she was doing. She basically walked from one edge of the stage to the other edge of the stage and then looked up and made a great point. And we were all like, that's amazing. And she said, if you ever are not quite 100% sure, pause, take a walk, stop, and say it. Everyone is going to want to see then what it is you have to say. You could have been struggling a little bit, and it's okay. No one's going to be perfect. And one of the things that I want to just let everyone know watching today, I was struggling to be perfect. As the president of that brand new Toastmasters Club for months, I would write my speeches and I would put it in presentation mode. You would have my PowerPoint on that side, and then I would have my speaker view here, and I would literally read every single word like I was talking to them, but they could absolutely tell I was reading it. There was no question. I wasn't seeing faces. I wasn't seeing emojis. I wasn't seeing anything. There was no connection with the audience. Sure, there might not have been any filler words, but that wasn't what was important. What was important is that my message came across and that they got the message and that we were able to connect and bond as a speaker and an audience. And once I was able to reset it after I was challenged by my executive board to do a speech without writing it. No, the first thing in my mouth, I can't.
Yes, yes.
I said, I have to write the speech. It doesn't work that way. And they said, we're going to challenge you. And if you don't want to accept the challenge, that's fine. Okay, I'm going to accept the challenge. And I will tell you, I have some bullet points, maybe on some PowerPoint slides, but I now speak from my heart because I know that's what's going to really connect with the audience versus trying to make sure that I'm giving them all that information I want them to listen to. I'd rather give it to them in a PDF or something they can scan at the end and have them listen to my stories. Because half the time they're going to be taking notes on their phone or notes on their computer, and they're not going to catch everything. Think about the game of telephone, right?
Yes, yes.
Something, they hear it, but maybe they're not jotting it down right. And then all of a sudden the message doesn't come across as you want it to. Why not connect with the audience, talk to them like I'm talking to you today.
Yes.
And then give your information and say, you know what, I'm going to be giving you a handout at the end. I just want you to, connect with me today. Listen to what hopefully you're going to hear what I have to say and it resonates with you and you're able to take away a few things, but don't worry about taking notes because we're going to go ahead and make sure you have all that information afterwards.
Right, right.
Do you know how much it would just help put everyone at the audience at ease? All of a sudden you would see these conventions of 300 to 500 plus ready to do all their notes, just go,
oh, yes.
I can relax. I can have a good time. I can listen and I can take in this experience. Trying to control everything and half of what was said.
Yes, those are excellent points there, Lana. So, something I struggle with is being able to read the audience and know whether or not I have their attention. Can you give us some pointers on what you do to be able to realize or notice whether or not you're connecting at the level that you'd like to connect with the audience?
Yes, absolutely. The first thing I like to do is scan the audience and see if everyone is either looking at you or not looking at you. If they're not engaged for whatever reason, I've seen speakers do something as silly as dropping the mic on the ground to wake everyone up. And then all of a sudden, right now you have the attention again. Okay, so let's start over again. Remember it or not, I don't know, right? But thinking about it, how can you then grab their attention again? I would say the best thing to do would be to ask another question and just kind of fit it into your speech and see if there's a question you could ask them. Like, does anyone here, can you resonate with the color blue? And they're going to be like, I can, right? Why can I? Well, I can resonate with the color blue because of this. And it may not 100% be part of your speech, but it could be just the break the audience needs to get back on board with you because you're hoping that they're connecting. I will tell you, don't stress about your filler words.
Oh.
And everyone always stresses about the word so and. Okay, I come from a time, I'm not going to go into my age, but I think you probably all figured it out about now, where and or but was used to join two sentences. This was how we did it. Now it can be at the beginning of a sentence. You can start a sentence with so, comma, and comma. It's very difficult to find out when someone's speaking exactly where that and or so is coming from, right? How are they using it? Are they having too many run-on sentences? Obviously, we can pick things apart. But what I'm finding as I'm learning as a Toastmaster, or I'm going to conferences and listening to other keynote speakers, the best speakers are deliberately putting those filler words in to connect with the audience. Now, I'm not saying to say like every other word. That's not what I'm saying. But don't stress yourself out when you have those filler words, because at the end of it, what really matters is that you connected with them, they understood your message, and they were with you during your talk.
Amazing. So things have changed a little bit just in the interest of communicating and connecting.
Mm-hmm.
Um, everything doesn't have to be letter perfect. It's
No.
more about, so communication is more than just words. It's, what else is it?
Yes, well, it's obviously your body language, right? You have to make sure that your facial expressions, your hands, I should probably be standing talking to you, but all of these things match, because if you're smiling and talking about your deceased relative, it's not going to go over well with the audience. They're going to get confused, right? So we want to make sure that you're deliberately putting your hands up where they need to be. You're making sure that your facial expressions are absolutely matching your tone, your
Mhm.
excitement, your sorrow. And trust me, there's been times where I've gotten feedback that, oh, I was a little too happy during some of the sadder parts. And I'm like, okay, I need to work on that, right? I need to work on the 3 years ago when I froze on Zoom and like really show the
Mhm.
shock and panic that I was in, so
Right.
that when you see them flourish, that's where the magic is.
Right, absolutely. And now that we're on the topic of body language, and I know, and we don't have the benefit of having a stage here or a live audience right in front of us,
Right.
but you mentioned that a speaker would be speaking and standing
Mm-hmm.
ordinarily, or sometimes they're sitting on a tall stool,
Right.
but they're elevated.
Yes.
We talk about posturing and walking. How do you command the stage?
The interesting thing is, one thing that I learned very recently, everyone talks about power posing, right? And putting your hands on your hips and just getting that power. And while that's great, and it's a good thing to do, I'm not saying not to do it. One thing that I found that kind of resets that parasympathetic nervous system is almost to just put your hands behind your head like this and lean back for 10 seconds. And it just resets everything and you calm completely down. Now, the difference between putting your hands on your hips and projecting or doing that is a difference in the energy that you're going to feel with the audience, right? So when you have your hands on your hips, it's almost like you're projecting down to them. However, when your hands are behind your head, I find that I'm able to receive any energy from the audience, right? And then give it back. So there's like a back and forth. And I'm not just then speaking to them, I'm with them and they're with me. It may not work for everyone, but for me, it was a complete game changer, because all of a sudden, no matter where I was, I could step out of the room for 10 seconds or 15 seconds, reset that parasympathetic nervous system, that fight or flight response, right? Of, oh my God, I'm going to get on stage next and I'm going to lose it. And then you walk on stage and you have it. You're cool. You know what the topic is. You know what your speech is. And one of the things I just want to again reiterate is no one knows your speech better than you do. No one does.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care if there's other experts in the audience. They might know the topic, but they don't know your exact speech. You're the expert on your exact speech. And if you can remember that, it's going to put you in that driver's seat
Mm-hmm.
of being, I got this. I know I can come across in that space of absolute knowledge. I'm the expert on this topic, on my speech. I've lived it. No one else has my unique experiences and my stories to share. That's where the magic happens, is sharing those stories with everyone.
Absolutely, absolutely. Your eye contact is really riveting too. Can you talk some about eye contact? I know we're going through all of the little elements. We're going to
Eye
put it all
contact.
together.
Yes. Eye contact. A lot of people struggle, especially in the Zoom world, to just look at the camera because they feel like they're ignoring everyone else. But when you look at that camera, it feels like I'm in the room with you having a conversation. you will see it. I did a presentation last week on another talk, right? Like another YouTube area. And I did have the audience on this side. So I could see their lovely faces, and I was talking to them, and I had the presentation in front of me, and I was looking at them. When I asked the audience a question, I would look over here, scan the faces really quick, and then come right back. Because if you can continuously keep that eye contact, and it's so hard to do, especially when the green dot is maybe above our faces right now. I want to see you smiling. I want to see all those things. But for everyone else out there, they might feel like I'm literally sitting across from them having that conversation with them because I'm looking into that camera. And that's really honestly where a lot of magic happens, because now you're connecting one-on-one. Someone once said, okay, I want you to sit here and stare into my eyes for 10 minutes. I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. I don't even do that with my husband, right? But I understand how it can absolutely make an impact, because all of a sudden you're seeing into someone, and someone now you're going to feel like they see something inside of you that you didn't even know existed. And that's where, I was asked to step up into these leadership roles in Toastmasters International. And I said I would never be in leadership again. And we have a problem with the word never, because as soon as you say it, it's going to happen, right? I mean, there's no question. So my daughter would never wear pink. It's not happening today. But it's one of those things where if you can engage that audience and know your speech, that's, again, just magical. I see a lot of presenters, unfortunately, reading from the screen like I did. I did it for years. And it wasn't, while it was effective and I was getting things across, it wasn't effective because I wasn't connecting with the audience. There is so much information to share. But if you think about it, and I know I said we have 7 seconds, and I think it's 7 seconds for our age group. But if it's for my son who's 21 or my daughter who's 24, it's more like 3 seconds. And they're scanning on Instagram, right? You always see them scanning on something. And if it's not stopping for them, then the question is going to be, how can we make sure that they're getting what they need to really make that impact?
Absolutely. Oh, that's so many good points just in that last section. Well, all through your whole presentation here. So, yes, and I just want to mention that Lona also has a checklist where a scorecard where people can evaluate where they're at right now with their speaking skills. And do you want to talk a little bit about that, Lona?
Sure. I tell you this now. I have 2 of them. I have one that asks if you're ready to master the art and science of communication. And the art of communication, I always say, is Toastmasters International, right? That's that art. Pulling together a speech, getting a great evaluation from someone, learning how to receive an evaluation. I mean, if you think about this, Toastmasters should absolutely be almost in every single corporation in America. It needs that help. But the science of communication is basically Udly. It's that AI speech platform that I leverage. And what I want to know with the quiz that I have is, how ready are you to go ahead and master the art and science? And then based off of your score, right, we can absolutely set up a consultation to see if there's something else you want to potentially work on. The other quiz that I put together just recently was, are you ready to be a TEDx speaker? And it's a little bit more targeted toward potentially getting onto that TEDx stage. And the reason why I love that one also is because it really has some great questions about being able to be coachable. This is something a lot of people sometimes can struggle with, because they might think that they know the answer. And I know I have a few different coaches that I work with personally, and it's amazing when you open yourself up to being coachable and to learning from them. And then you come back and you give them, oh my gosh, this is what I created. And then there's that exchange of energy and just elation back and forth. When you can get to that level with your TEDx speakers, or even just on your own, creating a new presentation, having fun, I can get lost for hours in Canva playing around with presentations and getting everything just right. But it's great to be able to go ahead and ensure that, they really just have what they need at their fingertips at the end of the day.
So, can you talk some about what a TEDx speaker should be expecting, or
Yes.
a candidate for a TEDx talk?
Sure, absolutely. So with the TEDx, I found out recently that the average number of times a person applies to get on the TED stage. Now there's TEDx, smaller stage, and then there's the big TED stage. And the big TED stage is normally Nobel Peace Prize winners, right? And people that are invited to speak on that stage. The average number of times that someone applies to get on that big stage is 86. That's a lot.
It is a lot.
So when we think about the TEDx stage, there's over 3,000 individual TEDx events held annually. 3,000. And I know that just in South Florida alone, we probably had, over the last several summertime, let's say, probably 6 or 8 in different towns, right? And mine was just held last month. The amazing thing is, when you're chosen from a group, I think there were 86 or 89 applicants and only 12 chosen. That's that elite top percent of having their story shared. One of the things that I learned was, when you go to apply to speak, you don't want to have a whole dissertation for your topic sentence. It should be between 6 and 8 words or less, if possible, because you want someone to be able to scan it and decide if they want to move forward with you or not. And then when you're telling your reason why you think the audience may benefit from what it is you have in your lifetime you've experienced, or what inspirational message that you want to share, it's best when it absolutely comes from your heart. And I will tell you that so many times we're trying to work with ChatGPT to just put it in the right words. But if we take it from whatever you said, and we're able to translate it in a way that TEDx or the TED team understands the significance of this and why it's important, and why this could be something globally that could be phenomenal for people to watch, that's where that magic happens. I always tell speakers to not be tied to a speech when they're applying to TED. And the reason for that is because they're likely going to have to change it. So all of a sudden, if you're tied to these 6 or 7 different stories that you've told at every single keynote, and they land with the audience and everything else, the TED team has strict guidelines as to what can be included in that speech. And I've literally seen TED Talks that have a disclaimer on it that say, this, while it is a TEDx, it doesn't fall within the TED guidelines. And then it just gives you a link to the guidelines. It doesn't tell you what it doesn't fall within, right? So you want to make sure that when you're giving a TED Talk, that your talk is going to be between those 12 to 15 minutes. It's going to have impact. Potentially, you're going to you're going to list out the top 3 things you want the audience to know. And you're going to end it with a call to action. Because for someone to watch it, the final question they're going to be asking themselves is, what's in it for me?
Absolutely.
And we need to just make sure we're addressing that. That's where I'm going to come in, because there's different ways to say the same thing, but we need to make sure that you're getting your point across in such a way that's so powerful. Your stories align to your message. And all of a sudden, magic literally can happen. And yeah, that's it.
Oh, well, that's pretty cool. That's a very exclusive, elite group of people who get invited to the TED,
Yes.
TED Talks and also the TEDx.
Mhm.
So, can you just give us some insight as to how the selection process happens? How do we get into the top 12?
I will tell you, with every single TEDx group, there's always a committee of people that are looking at these talks. And many times they're going to see if the talks either align to their already chosen topic, right? Because they could do that. Or if they don't align, then there's also the opportunity for you or someone to apply directly to TED and not just through a specific TEDx event, right? There's two different avenues you could go into. Now, let's say I was to apply to TED directly. Even though I'm in South Florida, I could be placed at a TEDx event in Denver or in California. And then it would be up to me, the speaker, to get there. So I'd have to pay for travel and hotel and all of those types of things. It all kind of depends on what the speaker, where they want, if they want to be regional or not. But getting back to that selection criteria,
Mm-hmm.
it really depends on the board of who is going to be choosing it. Because I think everyone is looking potentially for different things for their event.
Mm-hmm.
And they want to make sure that some, are going to be inspirational. The one that I just did, TEDx Miramar, the subject or topic was good juju, which was inspirational stories, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
I'm not saying, every single story that was said was just unbelievable. And the inspiration, it was an amazing family atmosphere. I can't say enough great things about the executive producer and co-producer of that, because everyone just felt like a family. Even the audience was completely engaged with the whole production of it. And it was amazing. And I can't wait to do more. I know there's quite a few coming up next year, even in February and so on, and just helping everyone get to that stage, if that's really what their goal is. And
Yeah.
I want everyone to know now, everyone has a story to share. Now, you may not need to go into the depths of your story because it's so dark you don't want to go there. Okay. And I totally understand that. But there could be something that you're talking about, something that you have overcome personally that could literally change the lives of millions of people if you took the chance and tried to get on that stage. Now, it doesn't mean that you're necessarily going to have that first application 100% guaranteed, right? But if you were working with someone, any of the TEDx coaches who knows kind of the ins and outs, we can look for what you potentially need to change on any application. I do think working with a coach is going to be much more beneficial than trying to do it on your own, because sometimes you don't, like you said, you don't even know where to start.
Mm-hmm.
And then it can get overwhelming.
Yes.
And then it's kind of something on your desk that you're like, I'll get to later. Not that push to get to it now, get to it today, because tomorrow you don't know what's going to happen and whose life you could impact.
Exactly. Is there one presentation, one TEDx talk that stands out in your mind particularly, and can you tell us why?
So I'm going to actually give you the two that I just did because I love both of them. The first one, it was by Tracy Jackson, and it was called Growing Up Jamaican. So she's growing up Jamaican at home and American everywhere else. and talked about how everyone was putting her in a box based off of what she looked like and sounded like. And in the middle of her speech, her story, you find out that she's doing the same thing. The
Mm-hmm.
same thing she's seen everyone else do, all of a sudden she did to someone else.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when she came around at the end and said, you know what, let's just all walk up and get to know one another, because that's really what's most important. And again, that was a very impactful, just, I get goosebumps still just remembering what she said that night.
Mm-hmm. That title is really captivating too.
Yes, it is. And the second one that I loved, and again, I'm going to be biased because these were both my speakers. It was by Jim, and he did it. The title was Surviving the AI Apocalypse.
Ooh.
Now, you know, AI, you know, the genie's out of the bottle. We're not putting it back, right? I mean, it's here. And we have to now figure out how to survive it and how to thrive in it. And his story really focuses on what we're doing with our children, because today we're teaching reading, writing, and arithmetic, and we've been doing it for centuries, right? And we have to do it. But AI can do it better, faster, and cheaper than any of our kids. So when you think about that, what can we do to help them really thrive with AI? And what Jim said was, we need to bring back the dreamers. We need to instill innovation, imagination, and inspiration into our kids, because that's where the leaders are going to be to not compete with AI, but use it at a different level, and then not have to compete with the reading, writing, and arithmetic. And I absolutely think both of those messages for both my speakers could be shared globally, because it is something that we do absolutely need to address. I see over and over again in public schools where PE, art, right? Physical education, things are getting pulled away. And this is actually what's keeping our kids grounded, keeping them there. I mean, we need for them to have that space to connect and to dream and to really, you know, understand what the future could potentially hold.
Absolutely.
I'll tell you, AI is only as good as we can program it.
That's right. We need to coach it to
Right,
be
exactly.
yes.
Yes.
Yes. And I'm really touched by the authenticity of your speakers, and coincidentally the name of your company is Elevate Authentically. And what a great speech I think helps people do, and you've illustrated it with both of your examples, is that you change the room in some way or fashion. And with the call to action at the end, it's a nice invitation to really be part of a purpose, a cause.
Absolutely. That call to action at the end is what is going to make that speech the most impactful. And when I chose Elevate Authentically, and I'll tell you, it was not easy deciding what I wanted my name to be called for my company. I truly want to work with whoever it is to authentically elevate them to their next level, whatever that level is. That level may not be a TEDx speaker, and I understand that. But that level could be you getting up in front of your church, which is something you've never done before. Could be you going and speaking at the PTA. Could be you even standing up and talking at a conference. If these are things that you're struggling with today, I've been there. I wasn't ever going to do it again. And now I'm helping coach others to get out of, I don't want to say get out of their own way, but that's really what you need to almost think about, because I find that when you can change your mindset, then all of a sudden opportunities are going to open for you.
Yes, and I believe that.
And I will tell you, there are 3 phrases I say to myself with every single opportunity that I have. And I'm going to challenge the audience to use these 3 phrases when they're presented with opportunities. The first one is, I am enough. How many times have we thought to ourselves, we're not enough? I'm not enough to go to this next position. I'm not enough to be able to bake that beautiful birthday cake that my son is wanting. I'm not enough to find love. Yes, you are. You are enough. So if an opportunity presents itself, know that you are enough and say to yourself, I am enough. The next phrase is, I am worthy. Now it's a little bit differently, right? Because all of a sudden, the question is, why are these things happening to you? Why are you being presented these opportunities and not someone else? What you need to understand is the reason you're being presented those opportunities is because you're open to them and you are worthy to get those opportunities if that's something that you absolutely want to go for. And I will tell you the final 3 words that I say to myself now with every single opportunity I'm presented are, yes, I can. Now, I will be honest, that doesn't mean I'm going to have all the answers at all. Trust me, I know that. I'm going to tell you if I don't have all the answers. What I will do, though, is I'll find someone who does have the answer or can even join a call to explain it to both of us. And I'm absolutely committed to making sure that anyone that wants to achieve that next level, whether it's a new speaking gig or standing on the TEDx stage or even talking in a congregation, that they're able to do so, and they're able to do so confidently, calmly, with purpose, conviction, and just a way to make everyone connect with them. Because at the end of the day, if the audience is not connecting with you, directly with you, then you may need to adjust something that you're doing to help them understand why your message is so important that they hear. So those are the 3 phrases I say to myself all the time.
Oh, very important. I'm enough, I'm worthy, and I can do it.
Yes,
I can.
exactly.
So I just want to remind people, just visit Lona's website at elevateauthentically.com. The tools that she mentioned, the scorecard for speakers and those who are bound for TEDx or would like to be, are on her website. You see that on the ticker tape announcement below. So we've been in the TEDx world for a little bit when we're dealing with communication, how effective it is in being able to change, move a room. But what about using communication in the office setting at a business?
I'm gonna hone back to those 27 years in corporate America. And for quite a few of them, I was running the champion space. The communication space, to ensure that the communication that was going out to our clients and our partners was what we wanted, and that it was clear, concise, and they knew what the next step was. I can't tell you how many times I've sat in a meeting or I've gotten a communication at work and it wasn't clear what the next step was. It wasn't. And then it either leaves that ambiguity or trying to understand or decipher what it is they actually needed. Communication is absolutely necessary at every single level in corporate America, from the entry level all the way up to the C-suite. And what I find is that if the C-suite can communicate in a way that the employee, even at the entry level, understands the value the request is giving them, right? So there's always going to be a value for the employee. When you present something, we need to explain, here's what's in it for them. This is why they should engage. This is why they should be on board with your idea or whatever change it is that you need. I can tell you, I am guilty 1,000% of hearing something and saying, absolutely not, immediately. It's not going to work. And it does take me some time to walk myself through it and understand from a business perspective why things need to happen the way that they do, and then get on board to be able to explain it to your more junior associates. And I'll tell you, if you can structure it so that you have the tenured staff, whether it be ambassadors or the middle management level, explain it, or even the C-suite, in a way that everyone gets excited about, then all of a sudden that change doesn't need to feel so daunting for everyone to adopt. And it's all in, again, going back to the TEDx world, the what's in it for me as an employee. And if you can frame your communication around that, all of a sudden, I wouldn't be surprised if you're seeing drastic changes at your company, because your employees understand and they feel that they're valued and that you're listening to them and that you want what's best for them. So this is the direction now we need to take the company.
Right. So, and in a company setting, and actually in our everyday setting, communication is about having influence
Correct.
for a purpose that other people can buy into, and they see that purpose, and it's communicated clearly and with them in mind, so that they can have what's called buy-in.
Correct.
And it's not a manipulative tool. It's more, it's communicate, it's back and forth. Communication's a two-way street. Whether or not you're a speaker on a stage, communicating with the audience, and the audience is communicating back to you how they're receiving you, or your own family, how you're communicating at the dinner table.
You're absolutely right. And one of the things, I think we talked about this before, you can literally get anyone to do anything for you, but it's all in how you communicate it to them. And that's exactly what you just said, right? And making sure that they understand the what's in it for them to be able to be on the same page as you. And it's just something that's definitely learned by a lot of us. I'll tell you, my son and daughter are still learning some of that. They may be a little bit more direct, and I think I need to brush them up on a couple of things, but it is something that we all learn to do. And if you can get really good at it, all of a sudden your employees will literally go all over the place for you. They will follow you to the ends of the earth and believe that you have a parachute if they were to step off the cliff. Because they trust you, right? And it's all about building that trust and that integrity and making sure that everyone understands you're in it together.
Yes, absolutely. And listening is one of those skills too. So even in developing a talk, you listen to hone the message. You listen to yourself, you listen to people you've been around, your life experiences. Those are listening skills. And I think that you're a very good listener, Lana, to yourself, your life, in all the forms that it comes to us. We're coming up to I know we could keep going, and we have only touched the corporate world, but it's so valuable for a leader to be able to communicate with the followers in a company, whether or not it's a virtual company or a company that meets in an office on a daily basis.
Yes.
Those interpersonal skills are life skills that not a lot of people really pay tribute to. But I do appreciate great communication, because it can bring people together in a way nothing else can. Can you talk about some of the elements of using communication as an influence tool in a good way?
Sure, absolutely. I can tell you that since 2006, I've been working from home remotely 100%. It didn't matter if I was working for clients. It didn't matter if I was working at a company. And the way that you can leverage and use communication is definitely to be fully present in the meetings. And I know everyone wants to take notes and do all of those things. If you have a Zoom meeting that's happening, you could turn on the AI assist on Zoom. You could also do some other things. Otter is one. There's some other note takers that I haven't 100% looked into yet, but I know I need to, because I am absolutely a note taker. Nell knows, we talked a couple of times before, and I think I had 10 pages of notes from each one of our calls.
Yes, you're a very good listener and a very fast writer.
Thank you. But the problem is, right, when I am writing, I'm not fully looking at you and absorbing everything that you're saying. I want to invest and figure out which note taker is best for me, because I know that that's just going to bring my listening skills even to a higher level, right? To be able to really communicate and effectively understand what it is you're saying versus understanding a piece of it and then trying to write it down. And whenever you look at me on some of the Zooms, you see my head is down and I'm writing. And it's not because I'm writing something else. I'm literally writing notes, but it's a little bit distractive for some people.
Mm-hmm. You know, this is a very broad topic, and we have really just touched on some of the highlights of Lana's, her coaching skills and the insights that she has. So I invite everyone to follow her on LinkedIn and also check out her website, Elevate Authentically, and download those tools so you yourself can figure out where you're at and where you might need some help in getting to the next level. Yes. Lana, any parting words that you would like to say? I'm sorry that the hour has just gone so quickly.
The hour, I think, flew by. I feel like it's only been 5 minutes, although I'm sure you all are ready to get off of the live. I will tell you, thank you so very much for allowing me to tell my story and let everyone know there is a light at the end of the tunnel. Even if you think you can't get over public speaking, the fear of public speaking, over 75% across the world fear public speaking, second to death.
Yes, 75%.
75%. That's a lot of people that are afraid to speak up. Mm-hmm. But you can find that inner voice and that confidence, your whole world can change. And I hope that if nothing else, everyone heard me say, don't stress about the filler words. Yes. Everyone has them. It's okay. And that's how you connect with the audience today.
Absolutely. Yes. And we are enough.
Yes.
Yes. And we are worthy.
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Correct. Yeah. Those three phrases. I am enough. I am worthy. Yes, I can. Because when you say that to every single opportunity that's presented, obviously you want to do it, right? So let's just put that caveat in there, right? If there's something you know you shouldn't do or you don't want to do, don't do it. But if it's something that's going to put you out of your comfort zone a little bit, try it out.
Yes.
Know that you're going to have a network. Yeah, you're going to have a network out there also of people that you can tap into. Your LinkedIn network, your other networks that you have that are like family members. You can always ask them a question. It's okay not to know everything, but it's awesome when you can try and then all of a sudden you find a piece of you that you didn't even know existed.
Right. You're growing another muscle.
Exactly. Yes.
All right, everyone. Lana, thank you so much. You've been so gracious and generous with your time and your talent, and you speak so beautifully. Thank you. I'm taking notes. I'm just watching you.
Yes.
So I'd like to invite you back again. We can visit some more areas of what you do, because we've only just tapped into one or two of them. There's so much more. So. Absolutely. Thank you once again. And everyone out there too, I would like to invite you to also join us. We have another wonderful speaker next week, same time, live stream. And this time it would be, this topic is going to be writing and publishing and marketing a book. So if you have a book in you and you've put it on the sideline for a while, brush off those pages that you started writing, and join us next Wednesday, 4:00 Pacific, right here. We're going to be featuring Gwen Myers, PhD. Okay, thanks everyone.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Mel.
Oh, thank you, Lana, so much. You're so magnificently wonderful.
Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity. Seriously, thank you so much.
Our pleasure. Thank you. All right. Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.